I think a lot of times when people think about this work of diversity, equity, and inclusion, they think about, okay, it's a program or it's a celebration month. But it's more than that, right? There's systemic changes that have to be made in order for this industry in particular to change.
Joining me today is Brent Obleton, Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion with Hudson Pacific Properties. Brent, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You were on a panel here at REITworks focused on the dynamics of leading after a promotion. What advice do you give people being promoted from peer to supervisor?
Yeah, peer to supervisor, it could be very nuanced, but I say, take it in stride. I don't think everyone has everything figured out, so give yourself space to grow, but also to make mistakes. I think that, oftentimes when we think of promotion, we think of, okay, what am I going to do first, right? Instead of, I actually need to take a step back and listen first, and to figure out, like, what is my new role? Who do my partners need to be? Who do I need to collaborate with? And I think that the more collaborative that someone is, the more partners they have, the more easier that transition could possibly be. And so I think it's very important for that person to be very intentional about how they want to navigate this new space. How do they want to navigate new responsibilities? Because a lot of times, it's in addition to their previous role, it's building off their previous role. But not to say that, they don't already have a particular skill set, but things probably do have to change somewhat to make sure that they are as prepared as they can be for this new role.
Now, can you talk a little bit about the nuance between leading through authority and leading through influence?
I think when people think about authority, think about the sense of power, right? This power dynamic that I have to make something happen. And I think times when people think about power, there's an automatic resistance, like, I'm not sure about that. As, in juxtaposed to that is influence. People are realized, like, I can be influenced to do something, right? Based off of relationship building. So I think those authentic relationships are vitally important for someone to lead through, not only, influence, but their authenticity. I think that once people feel like someone's authentic, they're more trustworthy, that they can get probably things done, rather than saying, I'm probably going to be resistant because you're saying that, oh, I have to be in this power space when you're talking about authority, but influence, build off of relationships, building off of things that have been done in the past, what you've done in the past to make things happen.
What are the things that leaders, particularly people that are new to a leadership role, keep in mind regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yeah, that's a huge question. But I think some of the highlights is like, how can I make systemic change rather than just checking a box? I think a lot of times when people think about this work of diversity, equity, and inclusion, they think about, okay, it's a program or it's a celebration month. But it's more than that, right? There's systemic changes that have to be made in order for this industry in particular to change, right? And so the data shows that, the more diverse a company is, especially in the upper leadership, the more successful. So it's a bottom line issue, but also it's just the right thing to do. Representation is important. Equity versus equality. Equity is thinking about, what powers and privileges do a group of barriers that do people have as it relates to equality. Everyone gets the same thing regardless of their unique barriers or privileges, right? And so how we bring in this equitable lens into this work, I think are going to be some of the big things that people have to really think about when they think about diversity and inclusion work.
And just to add on to that, how exactly do you go about measuring results?
I think, when you think about data and collecting data on, success rates, they can look very different, right? So you can have this quantitative thing, but also this qualitative, and I like to do both, right? A lot of, when you look at, quantitative data, it normally points you in the right direction, but, getting these stories and these narratives around why people are experiencing certain things, why the industry looks the way that it is. And so I think quantitative and qualitative data is very important when thinking about, measuring the success rate. And a lot of this work in diversity and inclusion is not going to happen overnight. We didn't get here overnight, so it's not going to be solved overnight. And I think everybody has to be all in. So we're in this together is one of the things I always like to say. And so making sure that quantitative and qualitative data is present to not only show what the issue is, but where the successes could possibly be in the future.